Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the On Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Bruce, and today I have a very special guest with me. I'm excited about this because when I first started doing these podcasts, I knew that I was going to reach out to you and was hoping that I would get a yes, and you responded pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So my guest today is a husband, a father. Those are the important things.
Yes.
He is a drummer, a crazy good drummer.
Depends on who you're asking.
and currently serves as the lead pastor here at Mt Gilead Baptist Church. My guest today is Brian Scoggin. Brian, what's up, man?
Thanks for having me, bud.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, how's your family doing?
We're good. You know, I have two sons. Brady is our oldest son. He's 20. Max is 17. And they've really taken the music thing now. So they're wrapping up a camp this week. And it's just kind of camp after camp right now for them during the summer. They're well. Brady plays drums mainly. Max is usually on bass for all these things. So they go as a duo a lot.
Nice.
Yeah, it works good. And, you know, we have a little girl named Ruby who's 3.
Yeah.
And so she's just, you know, she's full on, man.
Yeah.
It takes all we got.
Yeah,
with Ruby.
that's awesome. So our people don't know this, but you and I have a little bit of a history.
We do.
Prior to, so this is like a 30-year in the making kind of situation in a lot of ways. So just a little backstory. When my mom and dad first moved us to the Griffin area, they bought a place from Brian's dad. This was way back in 1998, so almost 30 years later.
Wow.
I would not have imagined us sitting here doing this.
So cool.
But yeah, so that's pretty awesome. How's your dad doing?
Dad's good. He's here at the church with us. He plays keys and sings, and yeah, he's well, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember just like seeing your dad and knowing that he served in ministry and loved music. I would say you probably got your love for that from
100%.
him.
What's crazy is, you know, the place he lives now is the place he moved when he moved out of the place.
So he's still there? That is crazy.
He's still there at the same spot that we moved from, the place that you grew up in. And he's been in the same spot here in town. And I can't wait to talk a little bit more about the place that you grew up in.
Yeah.
All that it really, what happened to me there and for me there. So
yeah,
it's going to be good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool, man. You mentioned it already, but you, I guess kind of recently you adopted.
Yes.
And first of all, what an incredible thing. I think that there is such a need for believers to be available for that.
Amen.
But I do want to ask, like, where and how, like, how did God prompt your heart to move towards that, you and your wife?
Yeah. I'll say it really began with a personal revival in my own heart. You know, I'd been on church staffs and in ministry for a pretty good while. I was serving as the drummer in the band, traveling around and doing that. And I say this a lot, but I think I'd become like a professional Christian.
Yeah.
So I knew what to do to keep the wheels going down the track and looked the part. But I just needed to be closer to the Lord, you know. And so the Lord started doing a work in me. And with that came the cutting away of a lot of things in my life, but then the adding of things. And so one thing that I was always against was taking on kids in our family. You know, I didn't necessarily think it was a bad thing for people to do it. I was just convinced that it wasn't my calling.
Yeah.
And so there was actually opportunity or two for us to help a kid, like maybe even related, like through foster care, like a kinship thing. And I was like, I really think that's probably what someone else is waiting for, that call, but it's not us.
Yeah.
But God really changed that when he started changing me personally. I remember reading the book of James. This was a season where God was pruning me. And I was just staying in the Word. I was reading through the Word, and I got all the way to the book of James, which means I was almost done with the Bible, right? I had gotten to the back of it. And James chapter 1 talks about the first thing you encounter is be doers of the Word and not only hearers.
Yeah.
And so I'm listening here, And then finally it gets to verse 27 of chapter 1, and James says, here's what pure and undefiled religion looks like: to care for orphans and widows in their distress, to keep yourself unstained from the world. You know? So it was my staining of the world that caused my mind to get real narrow and me to be real selfish about opening up my life. So it was in a dressing room in some arena or venue somewhere. I don't even know where at this point now, but I remember the Lord really dealing with me, and I remember thinking, God, I'm really blessed. Like, I just thank you for all my blessings. And it was like he said to me, I have blessed you, and why are you so selfish with them?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's wild.
And I knew, I just read the passage, that was swirling in my head. I kind of went into a praise and prayer time with him, and then he hit me with that. And I just said, the answer is yes, God. We're going to, whatever you're doing in us, we're going to open it up so you can bring some kids in and do it in them too. And I remember walking from the dressing room just a little bit later towards the stage. We were about to start the concert, Had my phone in my hand. There was a table that we would all set our phones down on. And right before I set it down, I texted my wife. And I said, what are we going to name our daughter? Because I knew that was kind of the dream if we could ever have another kid. She wanted a girl. And I just said, what are we going to name our daughter? And I hit send and I laid the phone down for like 90 minutes. And so when I got the phone back, man, there was just so many texts from Ivy, that I hadn't responded to. So I didn't know what that meant, but after the praying for the weekend, I knew that it wasn't like, let's go figure out how to adopt a kid. What it became is, let's make ourselves available. And that's the words you said. Let's make ourselves available for kids who need help. And so that meant foster care. And so I tried to go through the local DFACS office. It wasn't going to work. My schedule, I'm in and out. I wasn't going to be there for a lot of the training. Ended up connecting through Mark and Melanie Hall with Casting Crowns to their good friend named Wayne Noggle. And Wayne had, for several years, been running an organization called Families for Families. And so it's a nonprofit Christian placement agency for foster care kids. And man, they just made it happen. They came and did the training when we could do it and really catered to the schedule. And so we became foster parents through them. And it was me leaving the band a few years later, coming off the road. It was still that continued work God was doing. And so the next thing was, you need to come home and just focus on disciple making. And stay there, stay home and do the disciple making work. And I went to work for Families for Families. And so I started to become known in town, not as necessarily just the drummer guy in the band, but the guy who helps kids. Right, which is a strange thing. But all that to say, how Ruby came along was she never went into foster care. But it was because of the connections in my work in foster care in the area. We got a call from some friends at the hospital, and they just said, we got this baby coming in, and she's either going to foster care or somebody needs to try to adopt her right now. Like, their lawyer needs to be here now. And it worked out. I had a friend who had already said, hey, if you need any help with adoption stuff, you just let me know.
That's
and
awesome.
He jumped right on it. So that day I got a call at noon about the baby who was at the hospital. And about 4 o'clock, we picked her up, and the paperwork was all done. And 6 months later, it was finalized. But crazy day, man.
That is awesome.
Out of the blue.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to go back. I love what you were saying about being available to help widows and orphans and things. This book of James talks about. I think a lot of times as Christians, we overcomplicate what God has really called us to do. I think that we always think that we have to look a certain part and we have to play a certain part, but really, He's just looking for people who are available to do what it is that He needs them to do. And so I love that. I love that when God starts to deal with your heart from that place, you really begin to feel like, okay, God, maybe I need to rethink some of these things. And so I love that.
Yes, sir.
I love that. What is so your children were basically, on the way out the door when you adopted a little baby girl. What has that been like for you and Ivy?
Of course, with all the wonders and greatness that come from having Ruby in our life. There's just the regular daily challenges of starting over. When we went through diapers, and we're pretty much out of those now. pull-ups at night.
Yes.
But just we got kindergarten again coming up, and we just got everything to navigate all over again, and we're 15, 16 years older now, and
Yeah.
but that's minimal compared to not only the blessing that she is in our life, but what I pray that we are to her, and ultimately we pray that the influence that Ivy and I have in our home, and her brothers, that she'll believe on Christ and be filled with Christ and live for Him every day of her life and spend eternity in heaven.
Yeah, for sure. And like, there's no greater impact, and the reason why we do the things that we do, besides that, so that's awesome. I love that. I think that for me, so I have 4 children,
Oh, wow.
2 girls, 2 boys, 10, 8, about to be, I guess, going on 7, and an 18-month-old.
Oh, wow.
And so, like, I relate and I sympathize with the grind, but they're the best thing.
Of course.
Like, I think that there's no greater gift that God can give. They've changed my life.
Yeah.
Being a girl dad is one of the most incredibly humbling things.
Say that again.
Man, I love all of my children. Those girls are just so special.
Yeah.
I love being able to just spend time with them and to watch them, how they are in church and like are serving even at a young age in the ways that they can, and watching how God is moving on their lives is great. The boys, boys, they're rambunctious as ever. Always, you're just trying to keep them alive, it feels like sometimes. But man, like, I love spending time with them. I love getting to hang out and just wrestle around with them. But also too, like, to be able to teach them how to grow up and be godly men.
Yeah.
That's a responsibility in and of itself. And so, to your boys, like, how's that been? What has that process been like for you? You have to feel obviously incredibly proud of your children in general, but the fact that they are in a lot of ways like walking in the footsteps that you laid before them. What are your thoughts around that, and how do you feel about that?
Raising them, as a dad, I feel like I was genuinely born again at the age of 14. I was sleeping on a couch in the living room that you grew up in. And I haven't been perfect. I have struggled in my daily living for Christ, and of course made decisions that dishonored Him. I'm sure grieved the Spirit of God. But I guess one thing I know is that I have always been a Christian since then. I'm born again, and I've been waging the war.
Yeah.
And so when I felt like even I was not close to the Lord, or now looking back, I know I wasn't living like I should have been, I do feel like it was the grace and mercy of God still working in me and through me to just be like genuine with my kids coming up, try to be present, try to genuinely love them. And I feel like one of the biggest things is like genuinely communicate, like welcome them into my life. And if there were rules, not just because I said so kind of rules, but here's why. Because I feel like if you do that, no one's going to want you around, bud. If you're wild and rambunctious, like you want friends, you want people to let you come over, you got to learn how to act, man. Like just tell them, here's why I think you should do this. And I feel like it helped. It really did. As far as their like being musicians and things like that, I pray that it's secondary to their heart to know Christ and be a part of the body. So always use their gifting for the upbuilding of the church in some way, which they're doing. But it wasn't like, all right, boys, we got music lessons today. We got this, that. I've always been a fan of like cool instruments, drums, guitars, whatever, even keyboards, which none of us play very well. So we always just had them, and I always had a space in the house where they were available. They could just go get into it. And so that's really how they learn. There was no like, hey, we're doing drum lessons today, or bass or guitar. it was just like, there they are, have at it. And there was seasons where they drifted away, didn't have nothing to do with them, and then they went hard into it a little later, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, Max taught himself how to play bass on a video game.
Yeah.
I mean, he some 1/4-inch jack to a USB adapter into the PC that he had for gaming, and it was like Rock Band but with a real guitar.
That's wild.
He just taught himself, you know.
Yeah, I have
Crazy stuff.
have a friend who, I mean, basically just shut himself in his bedroom with YouTube and learned how to play guitar, and maybe the best guitar player that I know. It's wild.
So there's a gift in there. There's a talent that has to meet some information.
Yeah.
And when it does, it produces a lot of fruit. Not like with me and you know.
Yeah.
Like if I would try to go play guitar, it just doesn't happen like that. But yeah, I saw that happen in Max too, for sure. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And it sounds also like it was just kind of their genuine love and connection as they began to just develop those giftings and those talents.
Yeah.
All right, that's awesome, man. All right, so I do want to jump in just a little bit to just kind of like how you even got into playing drums. Like, when did you first start playing? When did you think maybe this might be something that turns into a career at some point?
Yeah. Okay. So my dad was a drummer guy.
I remember.
So he, the place that your parents bought from him, I'm sure you grew up there. There was 3 bedrooms in it.
Yeah.
And the middle bedroom in the hallway was the drum room.
Okay. That was the room that I slept in.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the room I learned to play the drums in.
That is awesome. That is crazy. That's awesome.
So my dad's Black Rogers USA, his first and really kind of only drum set, was always set up. Same thing with me and my kids. It was always set up. He had a tape deck out of the headphone jack of the tape deck going into a PV guitar amp. So you could crank any radio station or any tape you wanted to put in there.
Nice.
And so, man, I would come visit my dad for the summers. My parents were divorced. My mom and my brother and I lived in Central Florida. And every summer I'd come up and visit Dad. But he had to work during the days. So for almost 2 solid months during the summer, every day during the week, me and my brother were there. And my dad taught me the basic 4/4 drum beat. And I just started going in there every day and turning on the radio, and I would tune in their local rock station, you know, whatever. And I would play that beat to every song I could, just play the same beat and slow it down or speed it up. And I just started learning by that. I mean, so really, I've never gotten a lot of compliments as a drummer as like the most flashiest, the most wow or awe-inspiring drummer. Really, if I've ever had any like worth as a drummer, it's just been for like tempo and groove and feel.
Yeah, but those things are hard to find.
Well, I think I learned those not because I was in there just free flowing. I learned them playing along to music. I just learned to play drums playing songs. And so I just think like that. Like I just think songs when I'm playing the drums. So it ended up being a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, but that was really the story, is going into that bedroom that you slept in every night. But I would go in there every day and spend most of the day in there playing drums to the radio.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know that. When did you think that maybe, because I know you spent some time youth pastoring, right? And maybe this was before like the professional career kind of got to where it was. If I remember correctly, you correct me if I'm wrong on that. But at what point did you think, okay, maybe this might be something that God is opening a door to, and I have an opportunity to do?
I started playing with people around Griffin. And the cool thing about that is there's so many really good musicians in Griffin.
Yeah, people don't know that. It's actually kind of wild.
It's wild. Like actually, the word on the street, and at least the circles that I was running, so this is mainly Christian music circles, but it would always be like, bro, you're from Griffin too?
Yeah.
You're from Griffin too? And that, it's always, what are y'all, what's in the water down there? Like, there's all these dudes from Griffin. What's up with that? And so, yeah, strange thing, but so many good musicians. So I just started, it was always through the church. I never had it in me to feel like I wanted to go do a bunch of outside, just secular music. I don't know why.
Right.
But it was always through some kind of avenue through doing church ministry. But the more and more I played, the more and more I realized, like, I fit in with bands. We sound good. There's a lot of talented guys that I'm playing with, and we all enjoy one another. And so I think it became a thing. Like, I didn't know what I was wishing for, but I thought I would love to like be a studio drummer and a guy who helps people make their records. And I mean, I only dreamed about it, but I guess it would just be one small step after the other. Like, there was right out of high school is kind of, I think, when it really took off, because then I could travel a little more. And so for the summers, I'd go out with a husband and wife, Daniel and Bonnie Hoover. They took me out. We did camps all summer. And from there, I joined a band called According to John with some of my best friends in the world now. And so we did that. And that was probably the first like professional, hey, this is a real band kind of thing. You know, it didn't last too long. It was ending, and I got in at the end. Nice. If that makes sense. But super providential for sure. I really just think it was one thing that led to another. Yeah. Just opportunities with Christian Stanfield is such a great guy, and he was really, before he was doing what he's doing now, he was leading a Bible study at Georgia Tech. And for whatever reason, he couldn't be there one night, and Steve Fee was going to step in and lead. And I knew Steve because he called every drummer that he knew one day for a Sunday morning thing, and no one could do it. And then he finally said, somebody said, there's this dude named Brian down in Griffin. He calls me. I played the morning with him, and we hit it off. And so he calls me to fill in for Christian at this Bible study. So Steve's leading, I'm on the drums. And they were like, hey man, we really like that you brought a real drum kit, not just like a djembe. And so then when Christian came back, they were like, you just keep playing and you do the drum set thing. You know, I think that's been a thing for me as a drummer, is I'm not like a loud, crazy drummer. Yeah. I actually prefer like soft, chill drums. Okay. And so situations like in church and stuff, I've just always been able to kind of find my spot. I don't play super loud. And so it worked. So that was a connection with Christian for a while, and ended up connecting with Matt Redman, and played with Matt Redman for a brief moment there. It was just that. It was just kind of like word of mouth stuff. So over time, I realized like, maybe I could do this. Yeah. But I never really tried. Okay. Never really like went out, auditioned, did anything like that. It was through word of mouth. I ended up helping out Crowns fill in for their original drummer, Andy Williams. Yes. And when Andy decided years later that he needed to stay home too, I just got a call out of the blue. And I was already working full-time as a youth pastor, and I got a call out of the blue like, hey, you want to be a part of this, what we're doing? That's really how he said, you want to be a part of what we're doing. And I was like, oh man. And so I had a lot to work through. I had 2 kids, a wife, we had bills, you know, a house, all that stuff. But it worked out. And so, yeah, it was, and my pastor at the time, his name's Benny Tate, he was great. He said, you know what, you got to do this. He said, and you need to stay here too. So you stay here in any capacity that you think is good, and we'll work with you on that, but you got to go do this. And so I was able to do that with them for almost 10 years. Wow. In that kind of way. So pretty amazing. Yeah. That is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yeah. So to the thing that you said about the musicians in Griffin, like I worked at the Griffin Dwarf House for a while, and I just remember like I would see you come in, and I would see Brandon Coker come in, and just Jason Horde, a bunch of you guys. And that's how I realized, like, wait a minute, like all these guys that are in bands that I listen to, they live in Griffin. They all live here, or like, yeah, it was kind of a crazy thing. But yeah, no, for sure, there are a lot of talented and gifted and called and anointed musicians in our area, and it's really kind of cool to, you know, be able to just kind of when you're out, like you have that available, you know. Sometimes, like I would stop you sometimes and ask, hey man, how's it going? How's the band thing going? Or if I saw Jason or whoever else, you know, because I also, like, I lead worship and play just different instruments. And so you guys are literally on the radio every other song. And so it was just kind of cool, you know, kind of growing up in the area. So, all right. So here's the reason why I think that I'm mostly excited about this conversation. And it's because in my mind, I see you
really making two major decisions for your life. And so I'm curious to know like how you navigated both of those decisions. And so here we are, you get the call from Mark for Crowns, and you eventually like you say yes to that and step into that season of your life. Was that, do you feel like that may have been like a dream job for you in that moment?
Oh yeah. It was. I had to be responsible and make sure that like I couldn't just go join the band and run around touring, like my family not be in a good shape. So
because at this point you had
two kids, a mortgage, the stuff. Of course, my wife. And so I had to make sure that between our work schedules that we were going to be able to still have a life together. If I'm gone this block of days every week, and it worked out. I mean, we had to do a little bit of talking and due diligence to make sure, like, I wasn't just saying, I'll join, and then find out later that, my whole marriage is going to fall apart.
Yeah.
So we worked through all that before there was hey, we can do this. And of course, Mark and Melanie were wonderful. They built the whole thing around families staying healthy. And so it worked amazing. I mean, and I give a lot of credit to my amazing wife, who was strong. And even though the Crowns does it probably as good as anybody for a family, there was still a lot of times when she was on her own with the kids, but she did great.
Yeah. That's a difficult dynamic, I think, for anybody, just being on the road and doing those things as often as you have to when you're in that profession and in that career. But then also, too, when you add family on top of that, I see a lot of times, even in local ministry, you get so heavy and involved in what you're doing in the church, and in and around like the process and the operation of church and ministry. Like, people lose their family all the time, and you have to be real careful about that. I'm 34, and I've been involved in ministry most of my life. I would say my wife and I are kind of in a spot now where like that's something that we're looking out for. Say yes, be available, but also know when to say, hey, like I can't do this right now.
That's right.
So that's really, really awesome. Would you share just maybe like a favorite memory, something that you have from being on the road with Crowns? Maybe like what was your favorite thing about pursuing that career, or like being involved in that? Yeah.
Well, Crowns was such a non-band for being a band's sake. It wasn't just a bunch of dudes who got together because they liked to jam in the garage.
Yeah.
The whole thing was born out of ministry, with Mark's songwriting and his ministering to students. And so it was a ministry, still is. And so I think that's really what I loved most about it. I've always known that this was probably the ultimate call of my life, is to be a shepherd and a teacher and somebody to help proclaim the gospel. I never felt like music dude, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I never felt like the dude who I look at other guys, I'm like, you were born for music, bro. I never felt like that.
Okay.
And I don't know if any of them ever did. Honestly, I think we all felt the call to, like, we do music for this reason.
Right.
And so the memories that were great were just always when that was happening at its highest level. Like if you're, I can remember, a lot of times you go overseas and people don't see you a lot. And because they don't see you a lot, they are very excited when you're there. And so when you're singing the songs and doing things like that, they're just singing loud. And those moments when we're all like fully invested in the moment.
Right.
Those are always amazing times, for sure.
Yeah, I was telling someone the other day, like my favorite part about leading worship and being on stage, the older I've gotten, it's changed. But I think that it has also come with maturity. And my favorite part is knowing that like I can look out and I can see God working on someone, and it has absolutely nothing to do with me. But what an incredible honor it is that God gives you the sight to be able to be a part of it. In my last podcast episode, I was talking with someone, and we were talking about this, and we were talking about how the stage a lot of times becomes such a glorified place. And I think that naturally, or at least I can speak for myself, I think there is a constant battle of crucifying your flesh up there, because it's so easy when people are complimenting you and patting you on the back and telling you how great you are, to like let those things turn selfish, and you kind of lose sight of that. What would you say to a musician or even a worship leader who is kind of navigating some of those spaces right now, on how to deal with like that internal battle?
Yeah, I think every person has the desire within them to go after something and do it well, and I really don't think that's wrong.
Right.
So I just think you have to keep it in check there. Like, let's do this well, but what's your motivation? Like, are you trying to do it well because you love God and you're so glad that He has called you and gifted you and opened up a door for you, and you want to do it for Him? Or do you have some kind of like stepping stone mentality, like you're just here so you can get to the next level thing? Because compliments should happen within the body of Christ. I mean, we should encourage one another, we should edify, exhort, all the words, But I mean, I know for me, if someone tells me I did a great job, I appreciate it, and it also like scares me a little bit because I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, and I think that's like the nuance of it. I think that's the part that, like, as I've gotten older, like I've been able to figure out a little bit, so.
It's like, what do you do with it? There's a responsibility. I mean, I can't remember what famous pastor of old said this. It might have been like Martin Luther or something, but he says, sometimes somebody will tell me that was a good sermon, and he'll think the devil's already told me that 10 times. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 1,000%.
So it's just it's a fine line. It's a keep your heart in check. I just say, man, like, there is nothing better than just genuinely living for God and understanding that God wants you to be connected to a people, like a body. The whole New Testament is written to churches.
Yeah.
People who are, yes, there's evangelism, but the main call in the New Testament is to live together and obey Christ as we do it. Like, love one another, serve one another, defer to one another, encourage one another. That is the story of a Christian life. And so I guess that's where it got for me. And I don't mean to talk bad about it, because maybe there are giftings where you're supposed to just go out on the road all the time. I probably messed that up.
No,
Bumped the microphone. But for me, it just got to the point where it was like, I don't feel like, for me, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like I have to be able to commit to some things.
Yeah.
And for 12 years, that's how long I was in the band, I had a hard time committing to like local, organized, ongoing ministries. And they did it as good as anybody. It just, for me, it got to the point where I knew the time was here, So that's what I would tell people. All right, I'll tell you this too.
Okay.
When I was in that band, according to John, as it was, plummeting to the earth from however many feet it was at when I got in there, it was me. I believe it was Jason Horde, and I think it might have been another guy named Heath Baltzigler. Heath grew up at this church.
Okay. He played guitar or bass for Fee, right?
Bass.
Okay, yeah.
We were at a camp in Houston. Louis Giglio was a speaker. Now, I'm like 19. Heath's 19. Jason's 5 years older than us, so we're young.
Yeah.
And of course, Louis Giglio's there. This is when, Passion conferences were not brand new, but newer,
Yeah.
And he was just amazing, and still is. But I remember he was at the camp, and it was almost us young guys like, that's the closest thing to Jesus we're going to be able to talk to, like wise, godly counsel. Probably wasn't accurate, but we felt like that
way, yeah.
We're like, this guy, he's holy, man. Like, he's walking with God. And so I remember catching up to him on like a walking trail one day. He was walking, we kind of ran up to him, and we start talking about the band and what's going on in our life and what we hope could happen and what is happening. And he just said, hey, man, there's a line a mile long at every stage for people trying to be the next Chris Tomlin. That's exactly what he said. He said, but there's no one waiting in line at the church. He's like,
That's good.
I'd encourage you to go serve your church. He was so right. Now, if you've not ever been there and seen that, you're thinking, no, I gotta bust up out of this little group and maybe you're not supposed to be at the church you're at right now forever. I don't know. Maybe you are, but the church, some point in some place, commit and be there. And he was so right. And I remember it was just maybe 5-6 years later, I saw him again, and he said, hey, remember that conversation we had? He said, God's dealing with me on, I'm about to start a church. And that was the beginnings of Passion City Church.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called, Passion City?
Yeah.
Passion City, yeah. So you can see even him, it went that way. Like that's the fulfillment of all these gifts, all these talents, it's got to be served in a local church.
Yeah,
sure.
And I 1000% agree with that. I think it was a podcast that I was listening to, and Jeremy Camp was on there. It was him and I think John Cooper from Skillet. I don't know, they were talking back and forth. There was a lot of bands here, a lot of hate going on for the church. It was a couple of years ago. And Jeremy Camp was just like, listen, at the end of the day, if we're making the pursuit of a career or the stage our main thing, like we're failing, because we should be involved in our local churches. We should be using our gifts and our talents in our local churches. And that resonated with me in the moment, because I agree. I think that, there are people that they just get so involved in what they're doing musically or whatever that looks like for them, traveling and doing their thing, that sometimes we forget about the church. I've grown up in the church. I love the church.
Oh, yeah.
There are days that it is not as beautiful as other days. But I also think that God gives us the grace and the ability to work through those things. And so serving the local body is so important. But that also leads me to my next question, because so the first part of that is the yes, right? That we talked about, stepping into crowns. That was one decision, but then there came the follow-up decision. Many would say, and probably said, Brian, you are crazy. Right? You are living a dream, doing what you're doing. But God began to deal with you and to pull your heart towards the ministry in a different way, the local church. And so now we sit here in this beautiful building, and you are the lead pastor here. So walk me through that decision when you knew, okay, God, you're calling me to something different, and I'm going to have to make a choice here. Talk to me about that.
It went back to that renovation, that revival, like reordering things in my heart, and it was literally a getting back to God Himself.
Yeah.
That's probably what I had lost. Like, I was all into ministry and all the things that ministry meant, like build a brand, gain influence, help people with all the stuff, but like, I just wasn't walking with God Himself. I wasn't pleased with God Himself.
Yeah.
I was trying to please myself with what I thought I was supposed to accomplish and where I was supposed to be. And that's how amazing God is you find out, like, He's enough. I mean, you can have everything or nothing, but like Paul said, possessing, or having nothing yet possessing everything if you have Christ.
1000%.
Right. And so what's crazy is the decision to step into crowns, and that was a dream of mine, was like in a sense, you could think of it as a moving up position. And the decision to step down was like a step down position, like a go away from all the things that I had seen myself doing for my life. But they were both as easy as the other because of God's work in my life, I was so ready for the next season. I can remember, like, Mark is such a gifted teacher and communicator, and what I realized is, like, this is his platform to teach and to share, and I think I'm supposed to go do one too. We can't do it in the same space. This is his. My role here is to support him, but I feel God's calling to do that as well. And so that's really how the conversations happened. It wasn't, there was nothing wrong or bad. God had for a year or two been really dealing with me. And I'll be honest with you, they were really patient with me because you know how it is, man. Like sometimes you swing real hard one direction.
Yeah.
And I swung really hard. And I'm
Man.
sure I was like annoying at times. But it was just a purification. It was like I was in fire, you know? And so if you read the prophets, if you read the apostles, they don't always stay in the fire forever. I mean, they come into this place of living and depending upon Christ, and it's not just revelation all day, every day.
Yeah.
It's just walking in faith, you know? So I would say that's probably where I am now, is trying to walk in faith. It's not like there's this big burning revelations coming down on me every day, you know, like I felt like there were back then.
Yeah.
It was just God opening my eyes to so much. But the conversation became like, I think it's time for a new season. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't know where, but I do feel like I'm supposed to go home and stay there. And so we took about 6 months to work through it. And Mark had to pray about like, who's going to be next for the band. And man, it was the most providential thing. If no one's ever seen the documentary called Home by Sunday, it's on Amazon. It's Crown's story, really.
Okay.
You're going to see a pretty good portion of the middle of the film is dedicated to Jack, who was the guy who came in as drummer after me.
Okay.
And man, I mean, if God's providence was just all over the timing, everything. And so all the time that it took to just slowly work through this was his perfect preparation time to come in.
Yeah.
I won't spoil it. Everybody has to go get the
I'll go
documentary.
check it out because I have not seen it either.
But you'll see Jack's story, and it just perfectly lined up with where God was leading me to leave that vacancy for him to come and step right in.
That's awesome. So you shared with me earlier that you have been in this position for about a year.
Yep.
What has been, what has been like your biggest lesson that you've learned just in a year's time? I know obviously experience gives you more opportunities for those, but in a year's time, what has been your biggest lesson or takeaway?
Biggest thing is that God is incredible, and it's really good to just be in the middle of what God wants to do.
Yeah.
Because it's the whole delight yourself in the Lord, and he'll give you the desires of your heart. If you want what God wants, you get what you want.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Always. If you want what God wants, you get what you want. And so I think all this that we've talked about, lining up to God, I want to be right where you want me, and I want to be used in the ways that you want to use me. That's been the most encouraging and mind-blowing thing, is to come here and in a year see the growth and the transformation that God wanted to do. It was just timing, you know. I've had the blessing, everything's moved fast, and sometimes I feel like I'm a fast mover. So I'm learning that like pace is good too.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, like God could have made everything in the snap of his fingers, but he took 6 days and he did it in orderly, and then he rested. And so, hey, we can do that too. We should do that.
Yeah.
But one thing for sure I've learned is that the church is people, and buildings help people because people need a place to come and visit and congregate, but they're not the church.
Right.
And so as a pastor, you got to put your emphasis in the people, not in the facilities and not even in programs, but in people. And as far as facilities and programs edify and minister to people, that's what you put emphasis in, but not just to have them, you know. So a Bible and the church directory, you can't separate those two.
Yeah,
if
that's
you're going to be a
good.
good faithful shepherd, the word and the people, and that's your job, is to make all those things come together.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I guess maybe I haven't thought about it in that regard, but you're building a community that's based around Bible, and you have to keep those two things connected for sure. Yeah, no, that's awesome. All right, so we're getting ready to wind down here. I have just a couple of questions for you. We're going to try to get through them quickly because I know you have things to do today too. But this whole podcast, this whole journey for me started when the Lord really began to open my eyes to the importance of purpose on our lives. God didn't just create us and say, okay, now I got to find something for Brian to do or for Bruce to do. He created us and designed us specifically for something. And and I know people take different angles at this all the way around, but for me, the thing that I've learned in my life is that my purpose is not specific to a thing, but it is how we do those things. I think about Colossians 3:23, where Scripture says, like, in everything that you do it wholeheartedly, as if you're doing it unto the Lord. And so for me, like, that looks the same whether I am holding a microphone, standing in a pulpit, or if I am standing at the counter at the Chick-fil-A that I work at Monday through Saturday, or whatever that looks like. Like, those opportunities to just show someone the love of Jesus is always in front of me. And serving others is always the thing that I come back to. Like, if I don't have any clarity on anything else, just know that God designed me and put me here to serve Him by serving others.
Amen.
And so that's just my TED Talk on purpose. But I do want to ask you, like, how has that idea of purpose and walking in purpose kind of shaped your life and kind of gotten you to where you are right now?
First of all, I totally agree with what you said. It takes worship out of the singing in a building. It takes worship out of the context of singing altogether.
Yes.
Because worship is how we live our lives for God.
Right.
And so I think it was A.W. Tozer who said, there's no difference between the secular and the sacred. Everything can be holy unto the Lord. It's really the heart or the motivations behind why you do what you do.
Right.
You can get up and lead praise and worship, and it happens all the time, and not love God, and God's not pleased with your leading or your preaching. You can be vain and prideful and all in it for just your own self-advancement, and that doesn't please God. Or you can serve Chick-fil-A sandwiches with the love of Jesus in your heart, and that pleases God.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So not everybody will be on the stage. If you read the New Testament, that's not what it's about. Maybe why the church gets hate these days is because we have kind of gotten organizational to the point where there's these, like, it just feels businessy at times, and there's heads and there's tails, and the heads seem more important than the tails, but it's just not. That's not God's economy. It's not how it works. The Bible tells us that we're one body with many parts, and that every part deserves the same amount of value. There's no favoritism with God. If one part suffers, the whole body suffers. And so we have to. That's part of a Christian walking in faith and obedience to the Word, to actually do that. Because the guy who locks up the building at night, if he's going through something, it's easy to overlook him versus the guy who's leading the church.
And that guy can burn out just like the guy leading.
Of course.
So 1000%.
Of course, but they all matter. They all deserve the same kind of love. But I really think, this has been my experience, that purpose is directly related to being able to live the Christian life. To say, and this happens, people walk down an aisle, they make a profession of faith, and then they go, I have no plans to live for God, but I felt convicted in the moment. I do want to go to heaven, but I don't know what to do. I don't really have a desire to do a lot. I don't want to serve the church. I don't want to plug in and change my routine. Those people usually don't live lives that are glorifying to God. Usually it's the people whose lives are transformed. And usually they find something to put their hand to, you know. And so you think about Isaiah chapter 6, when Isaiah had a vision of the Lord, and he saw the angels praising God, and he was convicted. This is almost like a mirror of the born-again experience. And he said, woe is me. There was conviction. I'm a man of unclean lips. The coal touches his lips. He's cleaned. And it was after that experience, God goes, now who's going to go for us? And he was like, here I am, send me. That was like putting his hand to something. Like, he had the experience. What was he going to do with it? Like, God invited him into the ministry. And his ministry wasn't like offices and stages and green rooms. It was being kicked out of places and threatened, and it was saying hard words to people, I think if you're going to live a full Christian life and actually advance in the Christian faith, you have to be doing something purposefully for the Lord. I'm not saying you get salvation because you do something. You get salvation because God gives it to you, and it shows through faith. You believe. but you walk in salvation by doing things, and you will enjoy your salvation if you are willing to do the things God puts in front of you.
Yeah, no, that's really good. That's really good. All right, next question. And you kind of already answered this, but we'll kind of hit back on it really quickly. Did you always know that ministry was going to be a part of like that purpose for your life?
I really did. Before I was a Christian, 11, 12 years old, my friend group, I was just the guy who was willing to sit down and talk to the guy who was hurting. Give him some advice, give him some encouragement. This is before I was a believer. I just felt called to help people work through things. And when I first became a Christian, I just immediately wanted to be in the ministry. I wanted to be in the Bible teaching, Bible preaching, and all that. So I interned with the church as my senior year, and I always knew it. I always knew this would be the ultimate calling. I never knew if it would happen. And then I knew this was supposed to happen probably like 2024, I don't know, November. So not too long ago, like a year and a half ago. I'm in the shower. That's where my best thinking happens, I think, is in the shower in the car. And the parable of the talents pops into my head.
Right.
And I think, man, I didn't go to seminary. I don't know. I just felt like I was the guy with one talent, right? All these guys that do this, they got all the stuff. They got all the talent. And, but God hit me with like, yeah, maybe you are, but you got to use it still.
Yeah.
You can't bury it. You got to use it. Trust me. I knew that was a call into this specific role of like lead pastor, like the teacher of the church. And God confirmed it by this church. This is where I started most of my music stuff.
Okay.
This is where I was hanging out as a young kid. This is so much about this place. It's 5 minutes down the road from the house. Amazing congregation. We just gel so well. He confirmed that thought in the shower and that lesson through the parable with, 6 months later, boom, we're here. And then the church begins to grow and become vibrant again. So he's just confirming those little things that start with being in the shower and thinking about God.
That is awesome. That's awesome. I'm excited because next week I have another podcast lined up with another pastor in our area. His story is kind of similar to that. And so it's just crazy how God will bring things full circle sometimes. The place where you start something is the place that ultimately sometimes he'll bring you back to make that work even greater and even better. And so, no, that's awesome. I love that. And then I think lastly, last question I really have is that what would you tell someone who is navigating through what that purpose looks like right now, if they're searching for those things?
Yeah. I think square one is you got to just be with Jesus. He will probably have to prune a lot of ambitions and desires and things that you thought you wanted or should have. Before you end up where you're supposed to end up, he's probably going to need to prune you. And so rather than trying to like fit yourself into places that aren't for you, I just think it's best to be with Jesus. Just to be in the Word, be in prayer. When I say be with Jesus, I mean surrender.
Yeah. Like,
Jesus, I want you more than I want anything. Philippians 3:7-8.
Back to availability.
Yeah. Make yourself available. I consider all things lost compared to the surpassing worth of knowing Christ Jesus, my Lord. There's no thing you're going after. You want Him. He knows you got to live in this body. He's got a purpose for you. He's going to open it up. But you have to be with Him first. I'm talking about if you're looking for who you're supposed to marry, where you're supposed to go to work, everything. Let Jesus be your treasure and let Him give you the right eyes, make the availability just right. He just does that.
Yeah.
Let's start with Him.
That's good. I love that, man. Hey, listen, I want to say thank you so much for taking time to do this. I don't know that you know how impactful that is to me, to be able to just sit down and have a conversation with you. I have definitely followed your career and like just kind of your family, over a lot of that journey that we talked about. And I just see and trust that God is leading you and that He is opening doors for you, even now, even still, with ministry and just different opportunities to impact and touch people's lives. I think that as long as it's stewarded well, those things just continue to come. You know what I mean? And I trust that you're going to do that just from seeing the things that I get to see. And so, again, I appreciate you.
Yeah. I'd say likewise to you, man.
Yeah,
I'm proud of
that.
you and your heart to do this. This isn't no one telling you, go do this, go do that. This is all self and God motivated. So I'm proud of you. I'm glad I got this opportunity. Thanks for reaching out.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Make sure you like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Share this with all your friends. You can listen to it on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcast. Thank you again for watching, and we will talk to you on the next one.